Dorks and Forks is brought to you by His and Hers Couples Boutique, located on Kirkwood Highway, Wilmington, Delaware. After almost being murdered by his father and an evil hotel, Danny Torrance is all grown up and trying to move on from his violent past. Meanwhile, an evil group of psychics and a mysterious little girl call upon him and his abilities. Today we take a look at the sequel to the 1980 cinematic masterpiece, The Shining. This is Dr. Sleep, in case you missed it.
You still owe a debt, son. Pay it.
I always called it The Shining.
What the hell do you like, Doc? Chocolate and shell. Come on, son.
It's just like pictures in a book, Danny.
I think you have some very definite ideas about what should be done with Danny, and I'd like to know what they are.
Stop treating us like kids. We know how things work.
Welcome back, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Jay Bump. With me, as always, is the notorious Brian Wild.
Yo, yo, yo.
And back by popular demand of our ravenous fan base, Mr. Lee Zimmerman.
Lee Zimmerman, welcome back.
Oh, I'm so flattered I got to be back.
Well, everybody hit us up on YouTube, and they were like, you should have him back.
Right?
I really had a good time doing this, so
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks very much.
Awesome. So, as always, this is a review packed with spoils. So, moving forward, spoils ahead. Dr. Sleep can currently be found on Amazon Prime, On Demand, YouTube, Vudu, and Google Play. So, sequels that come out well after the original movie, for the most part, you could say it's harder to find a good one than a bad one. Some examples would be Mad Max Fury Road, Aliens, Blade Runner 2049, Terminator 2. It's hard to do a sequel that comes out 7 to 10 to even more years after the original. Mm-hmm. Sometimes because the actors have aged considerably or even died. Sometimes the original movie just didn't really need a sequel, but studios like money, so they'll put a sequel out. Not to further the story, but to make an old property relevant to a newer market. So how does Dr. Sleep fit into the world of cinema? Lee?
Oh, man. I'm such
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No. Kubrick is my dude. And when they did this once before, I thought, that's really dumb. 2001. And then they released 2010. I don't even think it was 11 years later. It was just a huge mistake. As a Kubrick guy, there's a lot to work with. You should be able to do this if you're going to do it, which is a dumb idea to begin with. If you're going to do it, and they did, they reached into all the little motifs. They picked up on every little dumb thing from the carpet pattern, every little thing that you remember. Thank God it's one of these things that everybody's seen a million times, and they still couldn't make a tolerable film, and I watched it all the way to the end because I'm a good guest. I'm a well-behaved guest. Don't know if I'm a good one.
I'm enjoying it so far because we kind of agree.
I know Kubrick's in your pantheon too.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that because the director was like, oh, this is paying homage more to Stephen King, to the book, the original book, and trying to bring stuff up. But then trying to bring up all the nuance of the original film, paying homage to Kubrick, at the same time as trying to pay homage to Stephen King. Should you have just picked one path and went? Because,
personally, I was going to let Lee go for a little bit longer, but, I could jump in if you want to.
I really do know something about it that drives me nuts. This film was all over the place. You remember, and I know that you've watched at least one or two Kubrick documentaries, and his whole thing was insubmersible units. He said this over and over again to his friends, that he would take 6, he said to Spielberg, if you have 6 insubmersible units, 6 scenes that can stand on their own, and you just link them together, now you got a movie. All you need is 6 things. This had like 12 half of things. The other thing is that The Shining is completely self-contained. Part of the element that you're going for, I remember seeing it in the summertime in a freezing cold theater wearing shorts. You were in winter. You felt alone. There was this other element. This movie travels all over the place. And the worst thing of all, is they have that chick from the Four Non-Blondes as the lead. That stupid hat. Oh. It's not her, but it's that stupid hat. As soon as I saw the stupid hat, I thought, okay, well, this is just the first scene.
But that hat's magic.
That hat is not magic. It's the stupid hat from Four Non-Blondes. What's the terrible song they do? What's
going on?
What's going on? Oh, definitely not this movie.
So there you go. Just from that alone, the hat.
Okay. So I think this might possibly be one of the worst movies ever made. And I mean, you can argue with, certain types of film, say like, like a Troll 2, where I mean it's so bad, but it's obviously so bad.
Yeah.
That's not what they were going for with this film. They were trying to make it good. Like, it had a budget of like $50 million.
Yeah, 45 million estimated. Opening weekend USA it made 14 million its opening weekend.
Which isn't that good.
No.
What about Rotten Tomatoes? And
Gross
critics?
USA was 31 million gross in the USA, so it still flopped. But then cumulative worldwide gross was 72. So
It made some money back. But yeah, I mean, I was looking at, what the reviews were, and it seems like for the most part, everybody seemed to kind of like it.
do you think if you watched the 180-minute director cut, it would have been better?
Yeah, for me to kill myself. Yeah, that was just, I did my best to struggle through this.
And are you sure you guys aren't just being jaded because we just watched 3 Oscar-winning films, and then now all of a sudden we get Dr. Sleep,
No,
Well, I mean,
which seemed like
watched,
Ewan McGregor just kind of cashing in.
we
for a
watched
paycheck.
3 Oscar-nominated films, and I only liked one of them. So,
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, why checking in with him just because he's the host? You know what? It was a huge disappointment. And I, as a teacher, I have this one thing I have to do. When I teach these kids at risk circus camps, you have got to find something good. If they hold the puppet right, I go, look, you're doing a spectacular job, because that's what I'm there to do. I'm not really, you might learn puppets, but I try to find something good. Yeah. And that was how I felt about this. I love Ewan McGregor. Hey, how about that flashback to Train Spotting, where he's in a dingy apartment and the lady dies with her baby? Flashback,
Right.
And I'm looking at him going, "Hey, this reminds me of a movie." It reminds me of a movie that he is also in.
that's a
Did you pick
phenomenal
up on that?
movie. Why wasn't that this movie? Oh, I
Yeah.
could have just watched Train
Train
Spotting.
Spotting 2. Ugh.
So you mean
I never got around to watching it yet.
Don't.
But
Ewan
we'll get to
McGregor?
that.
So Ewan McGregor's character is basically what's
little
her
kid.
face from Birdcage, Sandra Bullock's character, where they're just really irreprehensible people. They're just shitty people.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even at the very beginning care for them. I feel like that was one of the undoings of Birdcage was.
Well, I mean, Birdcage aside, but I mean, for this movie, so he starts off as this reprehensible character.
Yeah.
But then he gets on a bus, shows up in some town. Some dude's like, "Hey, you need a job? You need a place to live? I can
No
do
drug
that."
test, no background check.
Right? Just, everything's all hunky dory. Goes to an AA meeting. Cut to 8 years later, and everything's fine. I'm like, wow. I'm glad to see we had room for all that character growth.
Yeah.
I would have, really liked to see a flushed out character, which this movie has none of.
Man, I feel so bad, because you think about all the people that stood around on the set thinking, well, we're doing our cube. They were feeling good about this. We are doing Kubrick a favor, and we're doing ourselves a favor. And Kubrick would have done this if he had only lived long enough. And you know what? This is what Kubrick would do if he had the technology to do it. No, he would not.
I think Kubrick would have, if he was alive, he would have shot all these people.
What did he say about 2010? I gotta know. I mean, I just wonder, because have you ever sat through it?
No.
I'm not a huge 2001 fan. It's not. It's like
It's a little slow, but I appreciate it.
But then there's this other film that comes along, and I don't know why you would try and correct Kubrick
There's no need.
or add
Yeah.
to it. Back to the Future didn't need any sequels either, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. I thought it was pristine and perfect, and when they made sequels, they just dicked with it.
They said that
Cash cow.
Terry Gilliam says Stanley Kubrick wanted him to make the sequel.
No way.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
It probably would have flopped because that's
Terry
Terry
Gilliam.
Gilliam.
It would have to flop, but it would be brilliant.
It would be brilliant.
You'd be like,
right?
wow, this movie it
That's
didn't
the
make
man.
any money.
Yeah,
And then
right.
it comes out on DVD, and everyone's like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, poor Terry Gilliam. It'll be 100 years from now. People are going to be going nuts. They'll finally catch up.
So let's see. Other things I hated about this movie, because it's easier for me to tell about the things I hated than it is about the good, because there wasn't anything good. So as soon as this movie started, I realized that the story was just going to be basically Ewan McGregor versus the evil psychics or the evil shiners or whatever the hell we're called, the power in this movie. I don't know. That got lost. The acting right from the get-go was stale. It was wooden. I think Ewan McGregor was probably the best acting, and that was just basically him trying to convince me that he actually gave a shit about what he was doing. This movie reminded me of another Stephen King story that was adapted into a movie, Sleepwalkers.
Yeah.
I think Sleepwalkers was better than this.
Yeah. Yeah, with the cats.
Yes, the cats, and
they
you have to.
gather
They
up.
have to. It's the mother and her son, and they feed off the life force of people.
Forget
it's
that
the
actress's
same goddamn
name.
thing.
Yeah, she was a Borg later on, that chick.
Yes.
Yes, that was actually a decent film by comparison. You're absolutely right, but a lot of things are better by comparison.
True.
Tell you another thing I noticed about Shining 1, because I watched it today.
As
this
did
made
I.
me want to watch The Shining. Oh,
Right?
I
Right?
had to.
We had to watch The Shining,
Yeah.
and then as I was telling Lee earlier, I was like, as I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, I hate this movie even more.
I know,
and more.
that's-
It's making me mad.
I felt better about it last night than I did in comparison. What's really funny is how much of The Shining 1, what's terrifying about it, all the stuff that's terrifying are the stingers, are the musical stingers. Everything that's terrifying in the movie from the minute it opens is the theme, and it's Ligeti and it's Wendy Carlos Williams, and it's just disturbing sounds. There are moments where they sting a scene where she just watered the plants almost, you know what I mean?
Right.
Not literally, but I just think that there was no character to the soundtrack, which is true of we talked about soundtrack before. Kubrick has that. Even when it's not songs you recognize, it's assembled for your benefit to carry everything.
It just
did not have that.
all he does with his sound is it just makes the scene such more like grander than what it can actually be. Where this one is like, we're gonna take some of the the soundtrack from the first one and we're just gonna put it in little spots
Yeah.
to give you a little reminder. But they kind of did.
So
that.
they were trying to bite off Wendy Carlos.
He bit off everything. So let's see.
I almost said Wendy Williams.
In Ligeti.
The effects in the movie I thought were horrible.
Those were Sci-Fi Channel. What did you think of this film?
Well,
Sci-Fi
Brian said he
Channel,
didn't
straight
see
up,
it.
yeah?
So
I got a full disclosure. I didn't watch it.
Okay, hey, shake your hand too. Congratulations.
I went to rent it from Redbox and to just kind of power through it today, and just to kind of watch it at work, and then I saw what Jay posted about how it was the worst movie
He
ever
could have been
made.
talking about something else. He was.
yes,
No, he wasn't.
I watched this movie last night, and
I was like, oh,
immediate
God.
Facebook post was, I think I just watched the worst movie ever.
Yeah, so based on that, and I kind of assumed what this film was going to be. It was just a kind of a cash grab, something to appeal to 16-year-old audience goers, to 18-year-old, you know what I mean, like total Tate movie kind of thing. And then when I saw your post on Facebook, I was like, yeah, well, maybe I'm not going to rent it. But I did, however, do my homework, and I went online. I watched YouTube videos, reviews of other people's.
The Cliff Notes.
I did. I just went through
That's
and
very,
and I
very
watched all the cliff
dedicated
notes, and
of
I
you.
was like, "This just looks awful." Yeah, the psychic vampire vibe.
That's all
right?
they
and that's a whole other thing. Like, so you got to think about like, okay, so there's psychic vampires. That's very kind of kitsch for 20-year-old kids right now.
Yes, that feed off the whatever
the
the
energy
they
is-
feed off the shine of these other people that shine, except they call it steam because apparently they kill you and you turn to steam.
Steam.
And they drink. It's vaping basically.
Oh, yeah. If,
I'm like, okay, that's
My
the message
God.
we're going with.
It's a
like
commentary.
vaping,
Yeah, this is what happens when you vape,
right?
kids.
Yeah.
You even vape, man? Like, come on.
if
man.
Twilight was too sophisticated for you, then this
Oh my god.
is the film you should be looking
Yeah,
into.
it's Twilight with Ewan McGregor.
Usually you can say things like, well, this really felt like it was made for TV. It did feel like the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I thought originally when I saw the ad for it, I thought it was Amazon exclusive. And then
But-
it was, oh no, this is a theatrical release.
Yeah, well, I think if it was Amazon exclusive, it would have probably had better, I don't know, effects and
Yeah, and then
again,
you wouldn't hate it as much.
I don't know. I
'cause
mean,
you
if it was
didn't-
the same movie, I'd probably still hate it as much. But
but could you imagine if you went to the movie theater and spent $40 on it?
when I watched it last night, that's exactly what I said. I was like, I
Yeah.
would have thrown something at the screen.
At least if it was on Amazon Prime, like an original, you could have just fucking turned it.
so the girl with the magic powers,
Yeah.
the second lead,
The four
Did you
non-blo-
happen to
her
notice-
name was
Oh,
Abra.
Abra. I like Abra
Why not?
Cadabra.
Pocus.
Yeah.
Or Anal Mathrak, Uthpas Petru, Dorjel Genve. That would be a good name too.
That's a little long.
You're
though.
about to summon
Anal.
something.
Okay, well, back to Abra.
But I mean, so getting back to her, did you notice that in the beginning of that movie, like maybe like the first half hour or so, she had a problem figuring out what accent she was trying to use?
Abra was struggling. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it's
true.
like sometimes she's British, sometimes she's American, sometimes
West
she's Irish.
Indian.
I was
There
like,
was a
where
couple
are you
going on.
going
But
with
like,
your character?
don't you think when
True.
you're the director, you're in the room with the editor, and you're watching that scene over and over and over again because you're trying to cut it and do all that stuff. And you realize,
I don't know
holy
if there was
shit.
an editor.
Holy, wait, I'll pull it up. Well, let's call this guy out. You know, like when you see that glaring of a discrepancy with accent and performance, why not go in and do some ADR, some redubbing?
I mean, if that's the case, then why didn't he just, when he was watching this, going, I think we need to shoot a whole new movie because this just doesn't work.
Yeah, they also did those shots. He's mentioned this before. They did shots that are reminiscent of Kubrick a couple times. There is one thing, and I did find one thing that I really loved. The performance of the old man who's dying when the cat is at the foot of his bed and he's talking about how this cat knows, this cat knows. That was actually a great sequence, and it was early enough in the film that it gave me a little bit of just a glimmer of hope.
I mean, when it got to that point, I was like, oh, it'd be nice to see if that movie just kind of continues
That would be good.
that trend with this character.
And there was a cat.
And who doesn't love a cat?
I love cats.
But no, they're like, no, we're not even going to deal with that because, you know.
And it was a great performance by that actor.
And the cat.
And the cat was very convincing.
Right? But no, we didn't get that because, again, this movie should have just been called, hey, look, we're the sequel to The Shining. That's all. It should have been called Dr. Sleep. That's all it should have been called. The movie was one big callback.
The Shining 2.
Electric Boogaloo. Right? It was just one big callback. Like they poorly copied camera shots and, like you said,
Shabadoo,
right?
I'm coming for you.
The lackluster soundtrack, and yeah, they copied the scenes and.
So, what would you say is a successful version of the sequel?
Not one that wasn't made.
It doesn't exist because it doesn't need a sequel.
It doesn't.
It doesn't need a sequel.
We talked about this. I'm telling you, Predator 2
Was better than the
stands
first
up.
one.
It's really good. Predator 2 is a solid as serious film, and it's not the first one, but it is. It has a couple of hints of the musical theme that come back.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to do a sequel, Godfather 2, you might have heard of it.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good sequel. Assmaster 7. We've talked about that.
7. We might have to
there's
make a trailer for that. Like actually make a
actual
trailer for
trailer.
it.
Well, I'll be in my trailer with that.
Well, you know, some people might disagree with you. This film was up for 18 nominations.
What?
Well, I don't know if you've I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of the Fright Meter Award. I guess it's a legitimate.
Okay.
Ewan McGregor, Best Actor, Best Horror Movie of 2019, Best Director, Mike Flanagan. So Mike Flanagan, he wrote the screenplay, he directed it, and he cut it.
So send all your hate mail to him.
I know, because nobody else wanted to work on it, right?
Wow.
Right. Well, I think Stephen King has a credit as part of the writing for this because I mean, you know, it is his story.
Yeah, they were a nominee for the Oglethorpe Award for Excellence in Georgia Cinema. So I guess they're down there in Georgia where they're making like Walking Dead and all that stuff. That whole area of filmmaking, that's a thing now.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
the Golden Schmoes, they got the best horror movie of the year.
How is this a horror movie?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to call it a horror movie because it was a horrific movie.
It was.
Man. Yeah, it picked up a lot of best horror films of Phoenix Critics Circle.
What are these people smoking?
I saw Rotten Tomatoes was 77 or 78%, which I was stunned.
I was stunned too. Now, granted, you know, I tend to just hate a lot of
and
movies,
I didn't turn my head. I looked at every frame. I didn't just try and skip ahead. I didn't try and do the cheat. Yeah. I wanted to give it a chance, and I love Ewan McGregor, and I happen to love the Danny Torrance character. I thought they could have done a lot of cool stuff, so I really did give it an open mind. And I'm sorry, I'm saying terrible things about something that people put their hearts and souls into.
They really did.
They stood on a site.
And like $47 million.
Yeah. But they had to believe in it. I mean, there were people who were really believing in this, and it turned out that a guy sitting here, I'm allowed to say terrible things about their project. I really shouldn't.
Yeah,
but it was so
bad.
Awful.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Like I said, it didn't realize exactly how bad it was. Like I thought it was maybe possibly the worst movie ever made. And then I went back today and watched The Shining. And it was just like, I wanted to just like scream at this movie. Like I wanted to put it on next to it so I could like yell at it.
Did you guys like The Shining the first time you saw it?
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I had one of those moments when I was like 12 years old and it came on late at night and I stayed up all night. It felt like the entire night from like midnight and dawn breaks and it's like the end of the movie. And it was one of those like visceral moments where the horror, like as a 12-year-old, like you couldn't feel from your waist down. I mean, it was terrifying. You know, that Hellraiser 2 did that to me too.
Oh God, that
Just terrified me as a
was
child.
a great movie and that
Yeah.
beautiful lead. What did you know the Ridley Scott thing, right? About The Shining. That Ridley Scott got footage for Blade Runner. The tracking shot of the car driving up.
That's right.
That's from Kubrick.
Oh yeah.
Ridley Scott needed shot to put a capper on. The studio didn't care for the ending to Blade Runner, but just the origami. No, you need a happy ending. You need a shot of them driving off into the sunset. He goes, I don't have one. He called Kubrick, and Kubrick says, well, you can have some of the footage I shot of the VW going up to the Overlook, and that's what's in Blade Runner.
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
I forgot about that.
I just thought it was kind of a neat little factoid.
That was pretty cool.
See, even Ridley Scott's contribution from, it's just, that's better than Dr. Sleep. Just that.
Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at no point in time did I feel worried or care about anything. Like, again, no suspense. It wasn't gorgeous to watch.
Yeah. That's true. It could have been lush.
Right? Like, the only thing I was curious about was like when it was going to end. I mean, it was 2.5 hours long.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And I felt every minute of it.
I felt vindicated when the Four Non-Blondes hat chick got it. Do we know her from something else? Are we supposed to buy into this performance that was pretty bad?
Yeah. Again, she ruined it from the get-go with the walking accent.
Yeah.
And then she finally figured it out. But again, this movie, like, it wanted to be Sleepwalkers meets Lost Boys. But just bad. Bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, at least in The Shining, you could buy everything that was going on. Like, you could buy that, this little kid's got mind
Well, it's based on a
powers.
true story.
Yeah, but I mean, you could buy everything. In this one, I don't buy anything that happened in this. No. Nothing.
It
So
had no connective tissue.
So the guy who directed this, Mike Flanagan, who also cut it, if I'm not mistaken, was known for Dr. Sleep, The Haunting of Hill House TV series, Gerald's Game, editor, Ouija, Origin of Evil,
I have seen that.
Before I Wake, Hush, Oculus,
I've seen that.
Absentia, Hot in Cleveland, Design School, Lays of Demolition Derby.
Well, his director's credits is longer than mine. I'll give him that.
All right. So are we going to rate this one?
Yeah,
you still have more to go on?
Trust me, we can definitely grade this one. I'll defer to the guest.
No, I was going to do the Price is Right thing where whatever you said, I was going to go one lower.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'll go first. So, at no point during the viewing of this movie did I once care about anything or anyone in it. I feel dumber for having watched this movie. I award this movie no forks, and may God have mercy on its soul, which of course it had none of anyway.
Wow.
I thought it was awesome, and I'm going to give it all of one fork.
One fork.
No, I can't go that low for all the reasons that I listed. There are things in it that I liked. There was the sequence in the hospice that I loved. There was a cat, and the Four Non-Blondes chick does eventually die. That was pretty good too. For that alone, half a fork. So, Brian, your Cliff Notes. Once you consult them, give it a fork.
Well, I feel like since I didn't watch it, I really shouldn't.
But you're going to rush right out and do that right now, right? Like, you can't wait after this
man.
great review,
Right?
right?
Like, I mean, come on. After this, this should be like the next thing you want to see.
It
On
had
your
Ewan
list.
McGregor in it, so how about I give it a tenth of a
love
fork?
him.
You give it a Ewan.
I'll give it.
I give it a Ewan.
Yeah, that's just, so how about half a fork? Just because it had Ewan McGregor. So 1.5 forks out of a potential 12.
You put your chapter in the book, Ewan. It's okay.
Yeah.
Good
You're
work
allowed
out
to
of
do
you.
dumb stuff.
Hey, man, he still needs to make money. He hasn't worked in a while.
Could be
Well,
daughter's
he's
braces.
in the
We don't know
new-
what this is.
Yeah,
He's
who
in the
knows
new-
what he
He's in the
needed
new
this-
Harley Quinn movie, so I'm sure he's going to make some money off of that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, but so I guess we've pretty much covered this.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks everyone again.
Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Next
hang in
time,
there. I
let's-
think we're going to record something after this.
Exactly. But yeah, be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. And
Please.
We'll see you next time on In Case You Missed It.